Hello and welcome back to Raise Trident. My name is Jake, and today I have a really fun episode for you. I'm going to be talking with Rowland-Smith, who is a current analyst for the Mariners, a former pitcher for the Mariners, and just an all-around great guy. We had a fantastic conversation, probably one of the best conversations and pods I've had on this channel. We talked about, of course, his career. We talked a little bit about 2026, the shocking news of Rizzs' retirement, and he had a lot of great stories. So I really think you're going to enjoy this episode. Before we get into it, please like the video. You can subscribe today. It's free and helps me out a lot, but I don't want to hold you too long. Let's just get right into it. So today I am talking to former Seattle Mariners pitcher and current Mariners analyst Rowland-Smith, aka Hyphen. Outside of Mariners broadcast, you can find him on MLB Network, as well as his podcast, The Top Step, which you can find on YouTube and audio platforms. The first player with a hyphenated name to play in the major leagues, Rowland-Smith. Welcome to the channel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm fired up to talk some Mariners, talk about whatever you want to talk about. I can't wait because it's getting close, very close. Got the World Baseball Classic, spring training, and then right into it for this season. But I'm excited, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. You were just in Arizona for the Mariners fantasy camp. So
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit like how did that go and being back in Arizona?
So much fun, man. I honestly didn't know what to expect. I was asked to do it. What was that? But basically, at some point at the end of last year, when I was planning my big trip back to Australia, I take the family back home, either for Christmas or right after Christmas. And I got this text saying, "Hey, we're doing a fantasy camp," because I guess did they do one last year? I think they did one last year.
I've heard about it, so
Yeah,
I know it's not like a one-off thing.
Well, they had a big hiatus, right? So like Dave Henderson used to do this thing way back in the day, and there was guys this last week down in Arizona who have done like 8 of them. It's crazy. Like they just keep coming back. And they've got like this, this bit of this like brotherhood down there where they all rock up. They all got like, they all got these jerseys with like nicknames on the back and all this. So I was asked to do it and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. But I was going to still be in Australia when it was on. And this is going to sound like, by the way, I told some of the campers this last week. I didn't change my flight back home just to be in time for the Mariners fantasy camp. I kind of worked around it. But that was kind of my thing, Jake. I was like, when I was down there, I was saying, I actually flew home early because so I flew home from Australia straight into fantasy camp. I had an absolute blast. It was Mike Cameron, Jamie Moyer, Mark McLemore, Bobby Magian is the hitting coach. Danny Farquhar was there. John McLaren. It was a lot of stories, and just walking on those backfields of Peoria. It was good, man. Brought back some memories and just hearing all the stories and everything else. It was a blast, a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked like a great time. I mean, I see some of the pictures that are kind of snapped there, and it's just like for people who have been Mariners fans forever. I mean, I can't imagine what that feeling is like. Being I guess coached in a way by Jamie Moyer, and it's just like it's a really cool thing that the Mariners do, and I think the Mariners are really a great organization for kind of getting fans involved.
I'll be honest with you there. So going into it, because I always do these, like I got to do one on Thursday as we speak, and then obviously Fan Fest coming up when the time we're talking about, I don't know when this is coming out, but we're talking about all the stuff leading into the season. I usually go to these these corporate events or like a Mariners sponsored event or something. And to be honest with you, dude, like I know I'm representing the team. And there's things that I can say, can't say. Sometimes I get a little loose, like I'm telling stories. I'm like, oh, maybe I should tell that story. And so I was going into it kind of in the mindset of thinking, put the guardrails up and make sure I'm saying all the right things. And that I get down there, dude. Day one, I'm hearing Mike Cameron tell some inappropriate story that's just like, dude. And those guardrails just came flying off. And it was just a week of yeah, dude, like Bobby Magianis, man, he's the big league hitting coach. He's like just holding court in the cage, telling these dudes like the ins and outs of Julio, what he was going through. I wanted to click record and use it for my show. I was like, this is amazing, man. So it was a fun week. It was a blast for sure. It was very for the people who participated. The registration's open for next year, by the way. I'm going to be there. I love it.
Nice.
But if you're a Mariners fan, even if you don't play baseball, you're not in whatever. But just the stories, dude. It was epic. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. It sounds like a great time. Before we get into a little bit about I mean, this whole episode and interview is going to be about you in general, but there was some breaking news today that feels like is pertinent to cover. I mean, have been on the commentary team and just like the Mariners analyst team for a while. Today, it was announced that Rizzs is going to be retiring after the end of the 2026 season after 41 years with the Mariners. So, obviously a huge deal. I know a lot of people are just shocked by the news. I mean, Rick deserves an amazing retirement. I really hope that this year and this season is a special one for him. But as someone who works with Rick, like, can you speak to it a little bit?
Yeah. Where do I start, man? Well, I got emotional too when I got the news yesterday. It was my birthday yesterday, and I got the news from my boss, Greg Green, who we just had a good chat just about the schedule and whatnot. And he broke the news to me, and I was like, "What?" Because there was some rumor floating around a couple of months ago, and like about, "Oh yeah, Rick's stepping down." I was like, "There's no way." Like, just knowing him, knowing just how he's, the obviously the involvement with the team, but just what the team means to him, how emotional. Like, put it this way. A quick story, I can go on forever about this. I'll try and I'm hopeless because I go in all different tangents. But
no, you're good.
The last game of the season last year, playing the Blue Jays, and I was back in Seattle. I wasn't in Toronto, and we all know it was devastating. Spring a home run. After the game, we got a message from the booth, and it was Goldsmith, Gary Hill Jr., and Rick and Shannon Dreyer in the booth. And we got a message that, hey, this is going to be quick. We're going to wrap it and go straight to you guys. Because I was doing like the post-game show from a studio. And I was like, whoa, okay. Usually they do a couple segments, you know what I mean? Like, and they just said it's going to be quick. Well, come to find out later, it was just, you talk about from a fan's perspective. And even for me, I'm a fan too, man. I was just devastated by that loss. It was such a killer, like just a gut punch. Well, in that booth, and I don't know why, even though I was surprised, they just needed to do what they needed to do, sign off, and get out of there because I was so devastated. And I was kind of surprised. And split second later, I'm like, no. That's because this is everything to Rick Rizzs, man. Like, this is his family. This is his home. This is his livelihood, everything. And talking to him after that game, he was just devastated because it just, from everything it meant, it wasn't this situation where it went beyond his professionalism. In other words, where, hey, you got to hit a couple of these segments because, sponsored segments and getting these ads in and blah, 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 and have the format. They're like, no, we're out. Because it was just such a struggle. So going back to Rick, first of all, when I was playing, he tends to think he got me into broadcasting because he asked me to do a show. I stepped in for him. JJ Putz kind of dropped the ball on Bullpen Banter. Was a show that Rick put together for a player to go interview other people. And I stepped in, I said, I'd love to do it. And he claims that that's what got me into broadcasting even when I was playing. But I've always had a special relationship with him. And when I first got back to doing this is back, I flew up in like 2015, 2016, flew up for a week. And I just didn't know, I'm a nobody, man. It's not like I have a bronze statue at the front of the stadium. I'm not a Hall of Famer or any of this kind of stuff. Like, what am I doing coming back here? Like, this could be just an absolute blow up in your face. But I tell you what, a lot of people made me feel welcome, but the one person made me feel comfortable and made me feel like I belonged, or that everything I was saying had some validity to it, was Rick Rizzs. And he just kept saying, hey, man, you got to be yourself, got to be yourself. It took me years to figure out exactly what he meant, as opposed to me trying to be like super pro. When you're trying to like sound like professional and you're trying to sound like everyone else. And he kind of twisted it on me and said, no, dude, like, speak from your perspective. My perspective is not this. I had a subpar career. I was that dude who was getting DFA'd. Speak from that perspective. He explained to me, broke it down, and said, look at the field, man. Look at how many guys right now are just like fighting to stay in the big leagues. That's the perspective you got to talk from. Look at the guys who have had to just, grind their way through the minor leagues. That's your perspective. I was like, oh man, okay. And it just shifted the way I kind of went about it, as opposed to trying to be like, speak like I know all the answers, because I don't. It was more about, no, man, like, show some vulnerability. And that was on the early stages. And then, look, I say this in my baseball camps. I do summer camps, 4 or 5 weeks of summer camps. I say this to the kids, man. I'm always big with talking to young kids about who you surround yourself with, who are your friends, who are the people you instead of getting so caught up in hanging out with people that you think are cool or whatever, especially at that age. And so for me, I use this story all the time. When I go to work and I'm tired after doing a day of camp with a bunch of kids all day, and I'm cooked and I'm taking this, profession for granted, or this game for granted, or what I get to do every day, I just go find Rick and whatever he's doing, because he is just that reminder of like, no, we are so lucky. You should be so friggin' grateful you get to do this. And he just lifts my energy up, man, every time. He just has that thing about him. And so there's some of the more foundational things that how I feel about Rick. I get a chance to sit with him on the plane, doing it on the road trips. And he's that reminder without saying anything that we are super lucky. This game's amazing. Let's, have that positive spin on it, as opposed to, because we're naturally complainers, man. Everyone complains about everything. He just has that way about him. And then obviously everything else he does, he's so talented. He can just paint that picture. I love listening to the radio, driving around if I'm not at the game. Man, he's going to be missed. And I'm not going to lie, I was shocked yesterday when I got the news. I am going to miss Rick Rizzs, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's clearly been a huge shock to the fans. I've just seen a little bit of like kind of, the Twitter feed and how everyone's just been, celebrating Rick. And I think kind of where I'm at is I'm really glad, even though that last season ended the way it did and in such a devastating fashion, some of the moments that he got to call are some of the best moments in franchise history. And he was able to be around to do that. Yeah. And all I can hope is that this year is successful, has plenty of amazing moments for him. But then also it's just great that we get to have a whole year to kind of celebrate him, instead of it being like, okay, well, he's retired now and there's not really like a send off, that'll certainly be special, I think, for the fans who grew up listening to Rick, and for sure, even the people who grew up listening to Knee House, because Rick really just kind of like carried that torch. It's people have been with both of them for their whole lives. So shout out to Rick.
One other thing too, just with Rick, you remember when he had that quad bike accident and he like broke his ribs? I don't know if you remember that a couple of years ago.
A little bit.
Well, okay. He was like, he was in bad shape, man. Like he fell off a quad bike, hurt his ribs. So he had to take some time off. Well, I say this all the time, and I didn't really think about it when I was a player, but like when I was a player, it's like you kind of knew you build a relationship or rapport with some of the broadcasters. Like Brad Adam does an amazing job, man. Brad Adam has this really good relationship with players. Like, and I remember as a player, he was working and you just felt comfortable just giving him information and talking to him and having a friendship with him. Well, Rick's on like another level. Like everyone knows who he is. Everyone knows his backstory. Like, I'll be honest with you, man. Like I came across some broadcasters. I didn't knew nothing about him. I was just like, oh yeah, there's the dude who's like, I guess he's on the broadcast team, and he walks down and introduces himself. And I don't know anything about whatever. But with Rick, it was different. Dave Niehaus was the same for me as well. Dave was one of the first people who came up to me and said, oh, hey, you're from Australia. I went there with my family. I was like, oh, God, this guy knows who I am. Are you kidding? Like, it was special, So, quick story. So, Rick comes in after having some time off, walks in the clubhouse, down the tunnel, and he's slowly moving. And then I know Gino Suarez is a good dude, but Gino comes running up to him straight away. Goes, hey, man, how are your ribs? You okay? Everything okay? And you're like, can I give you a hug? I'm like sitting there going, man, I didn't get that. Like, like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, I'm in the back of my stupid head is like, I haven't developed that relationship. But I'm sitting there going, man, that's what this dude means to the players, not just the fans or people like me too. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there too. Like, Rick's the best, dude.
Absolutely.
Gonna be missed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to get into you now a little bit. So as it's, we all know you're from Australia, specifically Newcastle, New South Wales. And, we were talking a little bit before hitting record that like what I think is so interesting about your story is, when we think of players from international countries, I mean, of course, you think the Dominican Republic, you think of, Venezuela, you think of all those kind of Caribbean countries. Australia is just one of those countries you just really don't think about when it comes to baseball, right? And per, at least baseball reference, only 34 Australian-born players even appear in a major league game, which
Right.
is just incredible. So, and it's thankfully been a bit more of a resurgence now and starting to get there. But going back to your beginnings in baseball, at least per the research I could find, is it was the 1992 and 1993 World Series that you
Yes.
watched on cassettes. So,
Yeah.
you know, what is it about baseball and watching the World Series on cassettes on your TV in Australia that really just sucked you in?
Dude, the fact I'll keep this very um, non articulate as I can. The fact that, first of all, American sports, when you're in Australia, you got to understand something. I still feel like it's like this to some extent today. When you get access to American sports, American football, even hockey, but baseball, basketball, you're like, whoa, man. And you get like,
Mhm.
it's larger than life. Stadiums are sick. Like, put it this way. When I was watching the World Series, they're playing on AstroTurf. You're probably like, who cares? But they're playing on AstroTurf. The place is packed. It's just so intense in 92. Then 93, they're friggin' playing inside. Are you kidding me? Like, the 92 games I had when they were at the Braves stadium. But then I had the 93 games on cassette and the stack of these cassettes. I ask the kids at my camps all the time, like, hey, anyone here know what a VHS is? And one kid, you know, put his hand up and like
Yeah.
they've just been at the museum or something on a field trip. But you know, and looking and when they do like, you know, they pan the stadium, like, damn, there's a friggin' roof on that. Like they're playing baseball. Like we just didn't have that in Australia, man. Like it was just
Yeah.
insane. And it just took me in and my dad was heavily involved in rugby league at the time. So like the Parramatta Eels, he was a strength coach for that team. And so I'd go, you know, on the weekends, every Sunday, just like the NFL. And on the sidelines, I had my tracksuit on, like my Parramatta Eels, you know, it'd be like a Seahawks, you know, thing.
Mhm.
And so I was like a little kid and I was like, oh, this is sick, you know. But then I'd go watch on video. I'm like, okay, so this is one level. That's like a whole nother level. And then just all the little things, like just how intense every little moment was. Whack, base hit, crowd goes insane. Someone's on base and boom, like someone steals a bag. It was just these like moments where I'm like, I'd be in my living room. Wasn't even playing baseball at that point. And I was kind of like trying to mimic what the dudes were doing on the TV. I was thinking, what am I doing, man? Because I'm supposed to play rugby because I was a good little rugby player. You know, I was like kind of like a little bit of a man child back in the day and just running through people. And plus I was learning all the skills and stuff from like some of the pro players. So I was a good little player. And I never forget, I started baseball when I was 12 and my parents are separated and it wasn't like, you know, my mom's like trying to stick it to my dad or anything like that. They don't get along, period. But my mom's like, hey, if you really like baseball, I'm like, I love it, man. It's so sick. And she's like, well, you can play. I found out like the local team. This is like pre-internet. God, I'm dating myself right now. This is like, you know, she found out the team, the Toronto Tigers was the local team, and found out my sisters were playing softball. So she kind of got the, you know, word of mouth about where you. But the problem was that like you play rugby on a 10 a.m. Saturday morning, or you play baseball. You can't do both, right? Because at the same time. And she goes, hey, do you want to play? But I'm like, oh, I'd love to, you know, but yeah, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And she goes, I signed you up. You know, I was like, okay. And so I remember calling my dad, man, on the home phone. I remember it vividly. This phone was like this lime color green in the kitchen. I pick up the phone and say, hey, Dad, hey, how you doing, mate? You know, and he lives in Sydney. So like it's a long distance call from Newcastle to Sydney. And I called him and said, Dad, by the way, I just want to let you know I'm not playing footy this year, like rugby. He goes, what do you mean? Like, and he's like, oh, what, you going to play the friggin' piano? Like, what are you doing? You're like, that's not what you do. And I said, no, I'm going to play baseball. And he was just like, baseball? Like, what? Where'd that come from? It was a shocker. And then I remember rocking up first practice session. The kid's like, did you play T-ball? I was like, nah. And I had shin pads on. Like, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I was 12 years old, man, and they'd all play T-ball and their dads had played and all this other crap. And I was like a fish out of water. But at the same time, like I'd watched enough Major League games, I kind of knew what to do. You know, I kind of ripped off everything they were doing. And yeah, I was obsessed, man. As soon as I got into it and I found a few little buddies, that was it. I was hooked. The one thing I will say, I have to give some credit to this. The Australian Baseball League in the mid to not late 90s, but yeah, mid 90s was starting to take off. Now, this is pre-social media, pre 1,000 different sports getting on TV. You didn't really have a choice. So like in the summer in Australia, because I've looked hard into this. I was like, how the hell is it prime time? They got baseball. It's called the Pepsi Cup, Australian Baseball League, on prime time TV. Well, there's nothing else on. Like cricket, they only played these like test matches on like a daytime. They didn't play at night. So there's no other sport, like nothing else on. So boom, there they are. And they had these dudes who are in like AA and AAA, like affiliated teams who are coming out to play in the Australian Baseball League for like winter ball, you know?
Yep.
And dude, so the Hunter Eagles had a team. They played on a rugby field, so it made no sense. The right field was so short. Like, but I went there. I was like, oh my God, I'd watch these guys who are American. Like, oh man, that dude's from the States. I think he's probably an indie ball. I had no idea, but I'm like, he's like a big leaguer to me. Dude, I was hooked, man. I was absolutely hooked. And that was kind of my up and coming. But it wasn't like this, I'm going to get play in the big leagues. But I'd watch on TV just thinking, like, I just kept pretending that was me as a kid. And so. And I'll be honest with you, I've worked with kids over here. I have another business besides, broadcasting, where I hope, like Travis Bazzano was one of my kids I brought over, first pick overall. But the kids here in the States, I look at and go, if I grew up here, I don't know, man. I may not have made it because it was just like everyone's a stud here, I stood out back home. So that was, I got lucky. Big fish in a small pond. But that was kind of my introduction to baseball, and any chance I got. So they used to have a game at Wednesday night, 3:00 in the morning, which wasn't live, but they just played at 3:00. MLB game was like maybe ESPN game of the week. I used to click the record timer, and then I'd watch it Thursday morning for breakfast before school. And sometimes I'd screw up the time on the timer, and I'm like, I'd miss the first hour or whatever. I'd be so pissed. But yeah, that was it, man. That was it for me. I was obsessed. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, how do you end up developing to the pitcher you were when you end up getting signed by the Mariners? Like, do you model your pitching after a certain player? Like, how are you deciding on the pitches in your pitch mix? And just how did you get into pitching? Like, how did that become what you wanted to do?
So when I was like, 11, 12, I was, like I said, because I was so into it. And again, you got to remember, like, there's not that much there's some really good athletes and good players, but there's nothing like the States. It's so saturated, so many good players, obviously, right? But when I was early days, like it was Terry Mulholland, Jimmy Key because of the videos. So I'd do that little twist like Jimmy Key, if anyone remembers him with the Blue Jays. But as I was getting older, you do everything. You hit, pitch, whatever. I started to I was still obsessed with baseball, but everyone was getting bigger and stronger than me. I was like a real late bloomer, really late. And I was like, oh, this sucks, man. I'm like super into baseball, but like everyone's throwing 10 miles an hour harder than me, and so on and so forth. It was pretty much just ripping off what I saw on TV, trial and error. Like John Olerud, favorite player ever. The way he hit, I tried to hit like that until coaches like, what are you hitting like that for? You're supposed to hit like this. But then when I got more serious, it was Andy Pettit, 100%, man. When you're talking like the mid to late 90s, watching him pitch, just fixated on what he did. And I literally ripped off to the point where I got to spring training and a coach looks at me and I'm throwing a bullpen and I'm doing the same mix, man, like, as him. And a coach is like, oh man, you know who you remind me of? You got a little bit of Andy Pettit in you. I'm looking at him like, oh yeah. I'm sitting there going, bro, I just literally pressed rewind on the videotape for 6 straight months before I came here. Like, like I didn't even tell him. I was like, oh, that's my favorite pitcher. I was just like, oh yeah, cool. I walked off like, dude, you have no idea. I just ripped off everything he did and slow-moed it the best I could. We're talking, cassette tapes. Back or VHS tapes, whatever, back in the day. So it was definitely Andy Pettit. And then quick story on that. In 2008, Mel Stottlemyre was my pitching coach of the Mariners. And once I got put in the rotation, I was just bugging the life out of him with like, dude, what's Andy like? What's he, just all these Andy Pettit questions. And we're playing the Yankees and he goes, hey, come with me. I thought I was in trouble. And I'm like, there's no way I'm getting DFA'd, released or anything because I'm having a good year. Like, what's he doing? Like, he seemed like he was kind of pissing me. He had that real dry sort of, personality, sense of humor. And he goes, just come with me. I'm like, oh, where are we going? And we're walking like where the clubhouse is around the other side. And I look in the distance. There's Andy Pettit just standing there. And Mel goes, Andy, this is Ryan. Ryan, this is Andy. All right, see you guys. And just like left me. I'm like, oh, hey, Andy. So that was the first time I ever met him. I was like, this is so cool. And he was so awesome with me, gave me his number, gave me his workout program, everything. It was awesome, dude.
That's cool.
Yeah, man. But Andy Pettitte was my dude for sure.
That I have to ask really quick, like Hall of Fame or no for Andy Pettitte, because I know he's still on the ballot and didn't get elected
I
this
haven't
year.
even looked. I got to pull the computer up for that. I don't even know where's he at with the Hall of Fame.
I don't remember. It wasn't very close either, and I think he's kind of getting towards the end of his candidacy.
Yeah.
I think he's in his 7th or 8th year at this point. I think he was maybe in the 40%.
Jeez, I haven't even thought about that. I'm just looking now. Man, he put me on the spot with that one because I
guess. Do you think he deserves to be in it?
That's a tough one. I have to do a little bit more digging,
okay,
in order to give you a clear answer. But look at these numbers, dude. Come on,
especially in the postseason. Like, not really many better postseason pitchers.
Yeah, that's for sure. He had a couple hiccups though, man, in the postseason where it's just like he got shelled. Yeah, but no, but I'd honestly have to have it before I said yes or no on Andy Pettitte. That's a good one, man. I didn't even think
all your
about
research.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, there you go. I mean, you can look into it and make your decision, and we'll see. Sure. I don't necessarily know the numbers off the top of my head either. I think it's a lot of.
I'm looking now. Like, if you depend on the criteria, it was a different era too, where swing and miss stuff he didn't have the same swing and miss stuff as like guys who are like premier now in regards to in a rotation. But you're talking like pretty much 200 innings, every year except for a few. I'm just looking at some of the in his era of the things that were, stand out. But I'd have to have a deeper dive. I'd have to pull up my. Hey, by the way, before I was talking to you, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna do a little bit of quick digging on the 2026 roster. I'm sure we'll get into it. Yeah, I had to log back into all my the things I used to research and everything. I was in Australia just hanging, dude. I was so out of the loop. I wasn't even paying attention.
No, you're all good. No worries. So I want to ask, going into your professional career with the Mariners and just in general, a lot of people may not know that your first at bat in your debut is against a returning Ken Griffey Jr. on the Cincinnati Reds, his first time back in Seattle, and you strike him out with a really nasty curveball, might I add. So, this is kind of a two-parter. First, just how did that feel to get that strikeout against such a prolific pitcher? And then also, how hard were you gripping that curveball for that strikeout?
Yeah. All right. So, okay. First of all, I got called up. So that was June. I think June 22nd is when I made my debut. But I got called up 3 or 4 weeks before that, and never pitched. So I came up. And we're playing the Yankees, and they needed an extra lefty in the bullpen. This is when Mike Hargrove was still there, right? So around the time I made my debut, that's when Mike Hargrove in that year, if people remember, maybe they don't, he just quit mid-season. It was nuts. So I got a couple things on this one. So I'll get to your question in just a second. But, okay, so you got to understand something, man. I signed out of Australia. I'm not trying to be this underdog story, any of that BS. But signed for 30 G's, come over, no clue what I was doing, right? No negotiating power, any of that crap. I come over, everyone's throwing harder than me, everyone's bigger than me. I'm like, man, I need to somehow survive here. So plenty of that imposter syndrome, right? Which I know everyone deals with, but finally get to the big leagues, 6.5 years in the minor leagues, get to the big leagues, and 24 years old, because first year I was 18. So I get up, and I just always had in the back of my head that I was always it was never I was going to get there. I was just going to just grind my way to get there. But there's always some dumb not Seinfeld moment, but some little thing that's just going to take the legs out from underneath me. So I get called up, and my pitching coach said, "Hey, we don't know how long you're going to go up for." When I first went up, and I'm all excited. I called my parents, should we fly over in the whole bit? And I'm like, I don't know how long I'm supposed to be up for. So I got up for the weekend, and it dawned on me that shit. Sorry, I don't know if we can swear on this or not.
It's fine. No, you're good.
But Monday's an off day, and I'm sitting there going, dude, someone's coming back from the IL after this. I'm going back to AAA. So it dawned on me on that off day. I'm like, I didn't pitch Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I sat in the bullpen, just shit myself. We're playing the Yankees, and all these names keep flashing up on the board. And I'm like, oh man, I'm hiding in the corner like this. I didn't want the phone to ring and be me. I was too scared to pitch. And then the Monday rolls around and goes, oh man, I'm going back to AAA tomorrow, I'm pretty sure. And in the back of my mind, dude, I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be my story. I'm going to be the dude who goes up, gets called up to the big leagues, and never touches the field, right? Like, typical, right? Like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to be telling kids if I'm coaching them or something like, yeah, I got to the big leagues. They're going to be like a baseball reference. No, you didn't. Like, you're full of it. You know, that's going to be me. That's going to be my story. So I go up, lo and behold, get sent down. And for those 3 to 4 weeks before I came back up, man, I was just sitting there going, I have to get back there somehow, or this is going to be bad. Don't get injured, whatever. Anyway, so I finally come back up. And like I said, I was like, you know, just shit myself when we were playing the Yankees. And I was just hoping it was going to be Tampa Bay Rays, who were not good at that point, on a Tuesday night. Well, no, of course, it's Friday night. We're playing the Reds because Griffey's coming back for the first time ever. Back to Seattle, first time ever.
Yep. And
I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. The place is going to be packed. And I was already told, like, hey, just get there early because it's going to be a huge crowd. I'm like, oh, I can't handle it. And so I get there, place is chockers, man. Like, people are going nuts because Griffey's back and sitting in that bullpen. And sure enough, I think it was Ryan Fierban was just getting destroyed, right?
And 16-1 when you came into the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think someone pitched in between him and me. Like, it was just an absolute smashing, right? And I don't think Griffey had gotten a hit at that point. Maybe he had. I don't think he had. And so sure enough, I hear the phone ring. I know it's me. Like, I remember vividly, like, as soon as I phone rang, it's got to be me. It's 16, whatever the score was at that point. I start warming up. I'm like, oh, God. And then Jim Slayton, who was a bullpen catcher, said, hey, you're going to have one of the lefties. I'm like, why are we playing matchups right now? Like, it's 16. I'm like, look, I didn't think of that at the time, but looking back, I'm like, why are we really? Like, they can't just, like, go and mop up innings. Like, what are we doing? So he said it's either going to be Josh Hamilton, Adam Dunn, or Griffey. And I'm like, you know, okay, two of them are, you know, Josh Hamilton was like the MVP, and Adam Dunn's just juggernaut. Any of them but Griffey. I am not facing this dude, not here, like, not happening, right? And so you gotta have one of the lefties, and they're all kind of bunched it. As I'm warming up, I'm watching, like, you know, like the names highlighted. The thing. I'm like, oh, God. And sure enough, bing! I see the manager walk out, so highlighting Griffey's name. He goes, okay, yeah, you got Junior. I'm like, oh, my God. This is embarrassing, dude, because no one knows who the fuck I am, right, in that stadium. And they're all on their feet. So put it this way. I'm trying to paint the picture because we've got some time here. Everyone's on their feet, right? And then the manager comes out and people are like, hurry up. Like, we just want to see this, whoever, just serve up a meatball so we can see our guy who's, you know, about to have a bronze statue in a couple of years. We want to see him just hit tanks and relive our childhood memories. So there's a delay of the game because of pitching change. I come running out. I think they flashed up making his major league debut. No one could care less. Like, all eyes are on him. Dude, he's 60 feet away doing his little thing. I'm like, oh, my God, dude. Like, this is insane. And I just knew in the back of my mind, I'm not joking. I'm not trying to sit here and go, oh, yeah, if I throw this pitch and he's not going to hit my curveball. Nah. I sat there and said, just don't walk this. If I walk him, people are going to friggin' hate me. Like, absolute. Because I think he may have walked twice. I got to look it up. Maybe he walked twice. Something. So I'm warming up, and then I'm just freaking out, and then just throw strikes, and everything. It feels like the plate's 80 feet away from me. Willie Bloomquist comes in, who I think he is subbed out, and he was playing short. So he comes over and goes, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm good." He kind of knew me a little bit, and he's just like, you know, he goes, "Hey, screw this, like, mother effer, right? Like, you know, just punch him, like, punch me." He looked at me in the eyes. He got really aggressive. He's like, "Yeah, punch him out like this." I was like, "Oh, geez, all right." And so I was just like, you know what, everything was happening. And I was just like, don't walk him. And sure enough, he fouled the pitch off. I'm like, damn, I've got 2 strikes on him. And then I'm like, I'm just going to drop this curveball, like, and just bury this thing. Don't hang it, bury it. And he swung right over it. And I was like, I just punched this dude out. I couldn't believe it, right? And the crowd, I swear to God, man, I've said this story a few times, walking off. You think a kid's making his debut? I got booed. I got booed because I punched him out as I'm walking off. Like, oh, my God. But it was the craziest feeling ever. And I knew to myself, you got to remember, talking about Australia, right? I knew that I was going to tell my story about making my debut. And now in the back of my mind, as it was happening, I was like, great. People in Australia know who this dude is because he was on The Simpsons back home. Everyone knows who, because the Simpsons episode, I don't know if you remember that, but like the baseball episode, that was famous back in Australia. So like people love The Simpsons. So I'm like, great. I don't have to say, oh, yeah, I struck out some random, like, who else is in that? You know, even if it was Adam Dunn. Oh, I struck out Adam Dunn. Oh, cool. No, I struck out Griffey. He was on The Simpsons. It was perfect, dude. It worked out perfect. So awesome debut. A lot of fun. Got a chance to play with him a couple of years later. And yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah. So the little details that you were curious about. So per the box score,
Oh,
it
here we go.
was Ryan Farabend.
Yep.
Yeah. So he started, and then Jason Davis was right before you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then Griffey ended up going 1 for 5 that game with 3 Ks. So
There you go.
you weren't
All
even
right.
the only one to strike him out. So,
Nice.
there's that. But yeah, I mean, just what a crazy like moment to have your debut go against a legend and then a legend of the team that you are pitching for is just crazy. So
Hey, I have heard some absolute horror stories of debuts, and so I got lucky. Like there's some middle of September call ups, blowout game, pitch, suck, never to be seen again debuts. So I got lucky, that's for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So another question I have about your playing time, and I thought was really interesting. I mean, you ended up pitching in 121 games, 47 of them were starts. So you did a mixture of starting and relieving. Like, can you speak a little bit to like how difficult it is to switch to either or, and like maybe just in a mindset way, like how much different they are?
Yeah, it's interesting because every time someone like looks up my career, especially if I'm working on MLB Network, I'm like, oh, put that page away. Because I have so many regrets about my career and so many things I wish I'd done differently, and a few little injuries that I tried to just not speak up about when I should have, especially when these players like, oh, hey, I've got a little tingle in my elbow. I'm like, oh man, I should have spoke up. I was just too scared to do that because I didn't want to be like, injury risk or anything like that. Now, in regards to starting and bullpen, so in the minor leagues, I was starting bullpen. I much preferred the bullpen because I friggin' hated, to this day, it gives me PTSD thinking about pitching a game, the 4 days in between. I hated it. Now, I like the fact that you could be on your routine and all that, but from a performance standpoint, and I've talked to mental skills coaches, I've spoken to kids about this at length. I won't go into too much detail, but some people just profile differently from a mentality standpoint, or profile differently in regards to how they are able to stay present and not stay present. Adam Branero with the Mariners, the mental performance coach, does an excellent job at this. I was like, where were you when I was playing? The one thing I really struggled with starting was just the anxiety of the game, and then staying present, and then worrying about so many things outside of what I was actually doing. On the flip side, from the bullpen, my arm could be in a sling and like, hey, get going. You got the third hitter. And I was like, boom. All right, let's just snap on and just go. I could be sitting there in a movie theater and say, hey, get down to T-Mobile, you're pitching in 3 hitters. Boom, I'm ready to go. Because I'm just way better at just not knowing I don't have to pitch and building up, spending all this energy. And that goes with other professions too. But the best, when I had a nice little role, and like I said, man, my career just got derailed, and a lot of it was psychological in 2010. Happy to dive into that too. I'm doing a therapy session here, Jake, by the way, if you haven't figured that out for myself. But when I was having my good run, I remember I'll give Slayton, my bullpen coach, he said, look, I said to him, man, I keep looking up when I'm starting, and I'm like worried about and the guys now, Kirby, Logan Gilbert, these guys think about this because I have conversations with them. You look up, go, man, I'm 30 pitches in. It's the second inning. This pitch isn't working, but I'm going to face this guy, 2-3 times tonight. And if I don't have this pitch against him, what's going to be my plan? And then like trying to conserve energy and worrying about what I'm eating for breakfast that day, how I'm going to recover, all this crap, right? That it's just such BS anyway. And he said, look, man, this next start, this is Slayton, my pitching coach, in 07. I kept in touch with him after I was, he said, just go as hard as you can for as long as you can. So the mindset was like kind of like that bullpen mentality going into a start. But I literally, the best run I had was when that first inning, I was just emptying the tank. And I'd work my ass off, man, physically to be able to do that. And I just go, boom. And then, all right, you want me for another inning? You want me for another inning? So I tricked my brain to say, I'm just trying 1 inning, right? Come out. And then, oh, you want me for a second inning? I'd even like pretend the coach is coming up saying, hey, you good for another inning in the second, as opposed to doing this. And this is what I fell into in 2010, where I was trying to be like something that I wasn't. I tried, all of a sudden I forgot all that. It was nuts. And that's when I had my best run. So I was exhausted, dude. I'd get through 6-7 innings, whatever it was, 100 pitches, whatever, and just flat out cooked. But at the same time, like, that's how you're supposed to be anyway. I'm not supposed to have anything left in the tank. And so I was really learning on the go, but that was the biggest trick. But going back and forth, having that bullpen experience, like, helped me out massively. I was so much better suited mentality-wise for the bullpen than I was starting. But if I could take that mentality into starts, then I could have some success too. So it's just you play tricks in your brain. And that's what cracks me up, man. When people are watching games and they're like, oh, well, he should throw this pitch, and he missed this pitch, and his usage of this and blah. Dude, like, that's great. But when you are in it, all they're doing, if you're watching the game on TV, Logan Gilbert is not thinking about how much he's used his slider, and he may for a second, but all they're doing is just playing tricks in their brain to get through that hitter. That's all it is. It's just a mental, just absolute gymnastics for 7 innings or 2 hours. And the other thing I used to say too is like, okay, because this is back in the day when pitching deep into the game was massive. Like if you went 5 and dive back in the day, oh, people were like, bro, like, you're killing us. Like, you're killing our bullpen. What are you doing? I just went 5 shutout, and there better be a reason. You better be on like coming back from injury or something. But that you had to go deep in the game. So I always said, I'm like, okay, you know how like it goes dark pretty late in Seattle. If I was coming out, the sun was still out, or like it was still twilight, I'm like, oh my God, you wanted to go until it was pitch black when you looked up. I swear to God, I thought about that every time I went out and pitched.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you brought up the kind of the mental side of the game, and especially in 2010 for you, like, you only need to get into it as much as you want, but I am curious, I guess then, like, how appreciative are you now that, like, those kind of the mental strength coaches that we have now in baseball, and I would say there's been definitely a trend towards kind of recognizing the humanity of players. I think a lot of people used to, especially kind of just you see a player, you see a guy making millions of dollars, and you kind of think of them as robots now, and I feel like that's changed a bit, but like how appreciative are you now that stuff like that is being taken a lot more seriously, and there's a lot more resources for guys now than there used to be?
Yeah, I still think it still remains that you have to be mentally tough, man. Like, whatever you do, like, like you're doing this show, the fact that you recording an episode, and you may have Ken Griffey Jr. on, well, you have to work your ass off to make that thrive, right? Like, doesn't matter what you do. And the same, as much as the resources I have now, I am still a believer in, if you want something, man, it takes so much work. Like, I say this to kids all the time, like, you get a program, like I'll write you up a throwing program, and that program could be amazing. And the program I give them for an off season is really well done. Like, it's really real well put together with a lot of things. But if you're not going to go 20% beyond that program, or work even harder than what that is giving you, you're going to be the same as everyone else. And the same as everyone else, you're sticking in AA and AAA, like, if that makes sense. And so that still holds true in regards to this game is friggin' hard, man. It's stressful, but embrace that. Like, the thing I was running away from was, oh no, but I'm supposed to be really good, and everyone's kissing my ass in 2010. Everyone's telling me how amazing I am. I'm confused. Why am I struggling right now? And like, oh man, like, why is this so hard all of a sudden? It's like, hold on. A year ago, I was sitting there like fighting and so hungry to prove that I belonged on this team. Now, all of a sudden, the mindset had changed to like, the game owes me something. The game didn't owe me shit at all. And I, for some reason, got caught in my head. Like, I had such an ego, or I was drinking the Kool-Aid of everyone kissing my ass. And so, when I talk to like Adam Bonero, like I said, man, I don't want to take up too much of his time, but any chance I get a chance to talk to him, he kind of pitched in the same era as me. And it's funny because we watch these players now, and there's these whole different gamut of pressure, things that put pressure on them. Big one's sports betting. Like, some players have shown me their DMs when they've had a bad game. It's shocking, man, because and it's all sports betting stuff. So like, people are like, dude, I lost so much money on this game, like, F you. And I'm like threatening stuff. Or like, you see sometimes a player will come to the forefront and be like, oh, I got threatened on social media, don't do that, blah, 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 or whatever. It happens all the time. Like, it's nuts. I know a bunch of players like, bro, like check this out. Look, boom, and they're just showing me I'm like, oh my God. Like, I never had that, right? Like, I never had to deal with that because there's that separation. Now people just have straight access to players. So there's that extra level of craziness in regards to what players are dealing with. But look, man, the big leagues is hard. And as much as you can have any kind of resource around you, you still have to go and execute. And I always say that all the time. Like, you still have to, regardless, understand who you are. You have to try and learn. It's even tougher now because everyone's so distracted by, the culturally now, everyone's so distracted by, like, they want results in a week, or they have all the answers on their phone, or whatever it may be. Yet you have to somehow be present. It's so hard to be present now with all this, I mean, I'm guilty of it. Zombie scrolling at night. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm sitting here with my wife, like, we're trying to watch a show. Or what the hell? What's wrong with me? And so players now, when you're trying to compete at that level, just trying to stay present in the moment, man, is so tough. So there is that extra level, I think, of things that make it so much tougher. But just going back to, I try and use, and look, everyone's like, oh, like, you should be proud of yourself. You got to the big leagues. No, it haunts me, man. My career haunts me. It does. Like, between us, I'm not going to call them regrets, but so many things I'm just so disappointed with in my career, especially 2010. I was like seeing a hypnotherapist. I was seeing this mental skills coach. I was paying a boatload of money that no one knew about, like 2-hour drive 3 times a week, just trying to get my head right. Like, I was struggling. And then I had these little injuries I was trying to not tell anyone about. And so, looking back, there's a lot of fun things in my career, but it's very disappointing as well. That's why when I'm now broadcasting, I'm not going to make the same mistakes, man. I'm never getting too comfortable, like, if that makes sense. And so I know I'm going around in circles here, but I just think now that the players, there's so many good resources, and I can't sit here and go, oh, I wish I knew how to track, man, so I knew exactly that my RPM at the top of the strike zone is a better weapon than trying to pitch down all the time and all that kind of crap. But, man, these players now, there's an extra layer of BS they got to deal with. That is for sure.
We're going to get into 2026 pretty briefly here. I mean, a lot of the same guys are kind of coming back in general, and we're only, it feels, a week and a half from pitchers and catchers reporting, at least the ones who are playing in the WBC this year. So I guess just coming off of such a insane season that 2025 was, and at this point the expectations are a lot higher than they have been, it feels like, going into it. What are you kind of most excited for seeing in spring training? What are you most excited for just in the season in general? And just kind of, is there any players that you feel like are maybe kind of under the radar right now that, like, you feel like are really just going to be major contributors, outside of Julio and Cal and, kind of your main pitchers and stuff?
Yeah, I think the one guy, I thought he had a great year last year, and he kind of understood who he was as a hitter, was JP Crawford, because he went from going back a few years ago, he wanted to hit for a little bit more, a little bit more bolt, a little bit more mile per hour off the exit velo and get a little bit more distance. And then the year after that, he lost that, and then he kind of went back to, like, and then being more of a patient, better bat to ball. Now last year, I feel like he kind of combined them without trying to overdo or overstep his mark. And he was a really good contributor, man, with the on base and just wearing out pitches. I think he really leaned into that. Not to mention the fact he's a free agent at the end of this year. And I feel like with him, there's been moments in his career where it's like, all right, I'm going to prove to you that I am way more valuable than the way you're, projecting me as. So I think with all that combined, I think he's going to have a really good year. I'm not saying comeback year, and like he had a good year last year, but I think he's going to be a massive contributor because, look, I'm looking at this lineup and the fact that we haven't addressed third base or second base, right? And look, Cole Young, I think that what's really important for young players, and Ben Williamson, I'll combine this conversation with both of these guys. What's really important for young players and guys who, I know with Ben Williamson, he is just, dude, he gets after it. I was watching him last week. And, the goal is, different postures, just trying to lift that ball, trying to be better at getting the ball in the air to left field. more so, and being able to drive the ball a little bit further and pick up on some of the things because he's got that natural inside out. I look at that and say, you know what? I lost my job at third base. I went out and traded for Gino Suarez, but I'm coming into this season knowing I have to fight to make the team. And Cole Young went from a place where it's like, hey, you're like I was telling you in 2010, hey, you're awesome, you're amazing, come to the big leagues. And what happened? He figured out it's not easy. And what happened was the league figured him out. And so I think hopefully there's enough there. And there's enough of when he's going on, on social media and everything else. So he has to fight his way to be in the big leagues and not in AAA. So that's a huge motivator. So I always look at that and say, okay, who's motivated by what? On top of that, in regards to the rotation, Bryce Miller. Okay, so that deal he signed, I thought was great for multiple reasons. Number one, for the team, it's such a team-friendly deal. I'm like, wow. When you've got a guy like Bryce Miller, when he started to pick it up and get sort of beyond some of the mental and the physical things he was struggling with, at the end of the year, he just all of a sudden became this, okay, this is your potential, and this is what we're kind of anticipating at the end of the season. Then he goes in the offseason and says, okay, we're going to give you a lower, like this year's like in the 2.5 million range, but we'll get this carrot now for next year. If you perform, it's a club option. If you perform, we're going to pay you $6 million next year. So in saying that, not saying that he like all of a sudden sort of put the brakes on in years past, but he now goes into this season saying, okay, I need to make 30 starts. I need to be healthy all year long. I can't have the April, May, this slow start again. I have to come out and just be worth that because the club determines what I get paid next year. I saw that. I was like, this is good news from a Mariners fan standpoint. Not for Bryce, because now, man, he's got to now like step up. Which is massive. So I look at Bryce, I look at JP, and I always just kind of look and see what situation they're walking into. I think it's really important. I'm curious, with Josh Naylor being a 6 month where it's like he just signed this ginormous deal, how his mindset changes. But talking to Bobby Magianas all week, he absolutely he goes, you have no idea what he's like in the clubhouse, man. It's unreal. Like I said, what's he really like? He goes, dude, he makes such an impact on players. I was like, that is awesome to hear. So yeah, really excited. But there's some of the guys I think that I'm going to say Ben Williamson, I think is going to be a contributor. Cole, I'm still not all the way there with Cole Young just yet. There's just so many things that a big upgrade for next year. And I think that Bryce Miller, in regards to from last year coming into this year, the way the deal's set for him, is a big one. And if you notice too, sometimes like when a team signs a player to a certain deal, there's obviously something behind the scenes kind of determining why they're going in that direction. Why would they go with Bryce and just doing the arbitration? And no, they're looking and saying, okay, Bryce, last year you missed some time. We had to slow you down you had to go on the IL. You came off it too quick, So, the conversation, and from a thing that we will not find out. Like I hear a lot of stuff from the team, but not as much as what they do. They're looking at that saying, all right, we can incentivize him to be on the field for 6 months, and we can incentivize him to be the potential we saw at the end of last year. Because we do think you're worth $6 million next year. You got to go and earn it now. So a lot of that, I hope that makes sense. But I think that with all that, looking at that, I just think it's really interesting the way it's laid out, especially for a guy like Bryce. And again, we can talk about every friggin' player if you want, but there are a couple of guys I'm looking at because there's some still major holes, man. Second base and third base. I haven't addressed that just yet. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would love to know your take on Colt Emerson. I feel like he is maybe the most intriguing player to me coming into spring training because he has a legitimate chance to win a job on the major league roster and be there for opening day. Yeah. And it's just, he is super young, but he has also just been so good. And even though it was a very limited amount of time in AAA, I mean, he was crushing the ball. His first AAA hit was a homer off the light tower in Tacoma, right? Like just incredible, just transition for him. What do you think about Colt Emerson and his chances of either making the opening day roster, or, I mean, he's pretty much potentially guaranteed a debut this year?
Yeah, I think at some point I can see him, coming up at some point. Yeah, I'm curious. It's going to be interesting how they sort of, and you can kind of map it out, right, Jake? Like when you're watching who's getting the most start time, who's going on the B team in spring training on that roster as opposed to this one, to get a better look from certain evaluators on Peoria as opposed to going all the way to Goodyear. You can kind of map it out a little bit early on in camp. What's Jerry DePoto? You had Jerry, by the way, you'd be talking about, oh yeah, and now Cole Young, how's it look for him? Oh, actually, Ben Williamson's doing this. Oh, okay, we see what's going on. You're prepping us because this kid's going to be like the dude, right? But I think first of all with Colt Emerson, really impressed and kind of glad too that his personality, and from everything I've heard talking to coaches in AA and AAA, hey man, what's he like? They go, hey, great kid, awesome kid. And these are people who know that it's not anything public. They're just saying to me, nah, he needs to, you usually get he needs to mature a little bit or something like, okay, what's really going on behind the scenes? With him, he got to AAA right away and, head up and just eyes wide open. It was in the cage. This is from some of the coaches like, yeah, okay, like willing to, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm here, I'm just going to just absolutely just ball out because I'm Colt Emerson. So that's number one. Number two, though, I always say this, man, from a long-term standpoint, players need to earn your way up to the big leagues. I don't like it. And I'm sorry, but like 6 weeks of being in Peoria, at the Peoria Sports Complex, just killing it in spring training. I get that you don't have a choice. Like you obviously have to play really good. You're not going to play bad. Then players make the team. And then all of a sudden April rolls around, and then that third at bat, fourth at bat, you're facing, a lefty with just something you've never seen before. And there's a reason why he's there and he's facing you in that spot. Like Cole, we saw that with Cole Young. That to me, I think with Cole, I'd love to see him on opening day. Don't get me wrong. But I love it when these guys have to push and earn their way to the big leagues, as opposed to, well, you know what, we really have a need in this spot. Oh, he had a good spring training, he should make the team. From a long-term standpoint and from a standpoint of what you're walking into, the big leagues is so different to AAA, man. From everything that goes into it. And we saw that a little bit. There was a period there after the Mariners did this rebuild in 2018. There was this stretch there where guys were getting put into rotations because they're still in that reset/rebuild mode. And I'm like, man, like they're just not dealing with the adversity very well. Like Shed Long, right? Oh, well, he wasn't very talented. Well, no, actually, he was pretty friggin' talented, but he kind of rolled in and they said, oh, here you go. Yeah, you're a big leaguer when he was in AA. And it's like he got to the big leagues. He didn't know what hit him, man. It was like he was like, what? Oh, these guys are really good. A couple pitches. What's his name? Justice Sheffield, for example, who was a righty from the Mets. God, I'm drawing a blank. I was just talking about him the other day. Justin Dunn. Like guys like this, they're just kind of like, here you go. Like go pitch in the big leagues now. And they just got their, ass handed to them because they just weren't, they hadn't gotten to a place where it's like, I need to show up and kill it out the gates. And just because I'm awesome and I got all this stock in me, all these lottery tickets because I was a first rounder, I was a big trade, that I'm going to be protected. No, you have to go up and say, man, I have to go up and contribute to an AL West winning team or I'm out of there. Like someone's going to take my spot. It has to be that mindset. And so I think that's going to be important for Colt Emerson, for him to have long-term success. So I'm kind of hoping, sorry to drag that answer out, that's a situation where he has to kill it in AAA and force his way to the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. And, at the end of the day, I wouldn't necessarily put my money down that he makes opening day roster just because, I would imagine that just getting a bit more time in Tacoma with guys down there who have had some major league experience and just keep, kind of getting that, being a sponge, if you will, from those guys would be really good for him, especially at such a young age still. Like, he has a great head on his shoulders, but you still need to be around those guys who've been there and done that.
And just to try and explain myself, because people are going to be like, people listening are probably going to sit there and go, well, what's the point if he's killing AAA? Why just keep him there? It's not about that. It's not like, well, he should be doing that in the big leagues or he can develop in the big. Yeah, you can, but you just have to. It's just this mindset of saying, okay, when I walk into this major league clubhouse, I have absolutely knocked the friggin' door down. And when I get there, like these teams that are winning divisions every year or going to playoffs every year. I know because I've been in those organizations. When I was with the Red Sox, we had absolute studs in AAA. Jackie Bradley Jr., one of them. He had to force his way to the big leagues, and he knew he had that mindset saying, I have to be like the best center fielder, and I have to hit as soon as I get here, or when Shane Victorino comes back, he's taking my job. That's just the way it goes. That's pure, plain and simple. And so, you know, that anyway, instead of these guys, man, where they rock up and they're like, oh, well, you know, I'm a big prospect and this is what date is it? Oh, it's May. Oh, yeah, my Super 2 date. Oh, up I go. That's not how it works. It's just, it's never ends well. I've got multiple, like a list of players I can go through that's happened to. So again, just it's hard to explain. I'm not trying to be super salty there, but that's kind of an important one to me.
No, makes a lot of sense in my opinion. So I'm going to round this out with just a fun question that is just kind of, you know, bring down the everything. So if you could choose to have T-Mobile Park serve an Australian inspired food dish, what would your creation be?
It would be it's not like the whole menu, it's just the one thing, right?
Yeah, like if you had your own, let's say, food item, for example, what would it be?
Aussie meat pie. Like, dude, these things, look, do yourself, Jay, how old are you?
I'm 27.
Okay. All right. Do yourself a favor. You've got all the time in the world in the winter, right? Like in the winter.
Yep.
When November rolls around 2026, before then, you need to hit me up and say, all right, give me an itinerary. You have to go to Australia, go to, like, that's Big Bash cricket season. And go get yourself, go watch cricket and go get a meat pie at the cricket. I'm telling you right now, you won't even have to ask me that next time we speak. You'll be like, oh yeah, dude, we should be selling meat pies. And if they need some, you know, idiot who's the only Australian they know to come in and have, you know, Hyphens meat pies, whatever, I'll put my hand up. I love meat pies, dude. Like seriously, I try and eat clean and eat healthy. When I get home, oh my God, you drive past like a pie shop. I'm a suck. I'm terrible. It's so bad. So basically it's just like, you know, it's just pastry with like, it's not really it's not ground beef in the middle, but it's just like, sort of minced meat, I guess it's called. I think guys, but Aussies are going to kill me if they listen to this. No, meat pie. What's the 4 and 20 is the brand they use at all the stadiums in Australia. Okay. It's kind of gross. It's kind of like wrapped in plastic. It's cost like $10. Such a rip-off. You open it up, it's this meat pie. It's kind of a little bit small. Sometimes cold in the middle, brutal. But no, they should have like dead set. You know, I know T-Mobile does it well. Yeah, the Aussie meat pie, you can't go past that. 100%.
Awesome. Very cool. So any last words that you want to tell for the people at home who are watching, anything about, you know, plugging the stuff that you do on the side, or, you know, anything for the Mariner fans at home?
Yeah. Okay. So Raise the Trident is going to be the place where I give this news. So the Top Step, you can catch it on YouTube. You just go to, I think it's at the Top Step TV on YouTube. So you can go watch it for free on YouTube, but it was on Root Sports last couple of years. This is the first I've said this anywhere publicly. I was supposed to do an announcement in a couple of days, but I'll say it now because you're a good dude and I've enjoyed this conversation. It's going to be on King 5 this year. So it's going to be on King 5 after Sunday Night Baseball. It's going to be on re-air throughout the week, but you can catch it on YouTube. It's a fun show. It's just basically I have Mariner players sit down with either in person or remote, or some former players. We have the How to Speak Australian segment. But yeah, that's 2026. And the other thing too, man, we were talking about Rick Rizzs. I'll plug my camps too. If you do have kids, 6 to 12-year-olds, come to nextgenbaseball.com. Come to the camps during the summer. Hang out with me. I love it, man. I go all in Monday to Friday. I'm just yelling. I'm all over the map, and that's why. By the way, if I'm on the call that night, my voice is gone. It's because those camps all day. So, yeah, go check it out if you got kids and they're into baseball. They're not into baseball. And last one, man, 2026. Let's go. Like the Rick Rizzs news, Jake. I've got to say, that has to be the catalyst here for everyone to say, you know what, we need to step it up in 2026 and win a friggin' World Series. Let's go.
Yeah.
Come on.
Thank you so much to Ryan Rowland-Smith for stopping by the channel. It was a fantastic talk. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please comment down below what your favorite moment of this interview was. We would love to hear from you. You can like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's free. It helps me out a lot. And if you want to get some of these videos early, you can become a member for only a couple dollars a month. I'd appreciate that as well. But that's going to be it for me in this one, and I will see you in the next.